We first begin from the Western region, and Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta has been challenging assertions by the opposition NDC that the E-Levy is not needed at this time. This, according to him, is misplaced, and Ken Ofori-Atta wants the NDC to come to terms with a shift in Ghana's economy from the physical to the virtual, hence the need to take steps to raise revenue. The Finance Minister was speaking at an E-Levy town hall in Sekondi.
So I think the NDC stance about not having E-Levy may be misplaced, but it's not because they are not patriotic. But when we do the numbers, you realize that really we are at a point in our nation's history where we need to do things differently to be able to cross the issues that are confronting us with regards to youth employment, which affects all of us and really goes to the dignity of our people who are home, the issue of our debt, so that we can start mobilizing our own resources. But to be able to do that is to ensure that all of us contribute. The realization that the economy is shifting. And if it is shifting, then when do we get a head start at it to begin to understand that business and also therefore to be able to raise the revenue required, because you can see 78 billion moving to 953 billion and you can see the trillions coming. And the opportunity therefore with digitalization to also then move to all of us being a part of it, and this sense that, this is pernicious, etc., etc. You then ask your opposition people exactly where we are going to get this type of resources, in an economy that is growing, that is getting modern, that certain things must be needed so that the dignity of all of us is enhanced.
Well, let's stay with the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. He's reiterated government's effort to control its expenditure as a first step in addressing Ghana's debt sustainability challenges instead of an IMF intervention.
So the sovereignty of the people and making sure that we live well as a confident people and people who earn their way, is paramount as we think through, this whole issue of our philosophy of how to fund ourselves so that we don't become dependent on outsiders, including particularly the IMF. We also looked at our own sort of fiscal consolidation, in which we then said that we are going to try and reduce our deficit. This week, actually, I sent a letter out to all of my colleagues about our 20% cut in terms of expenditure to make sure that, we all work within that band. That 20% cut that we are prescribing is going to mean almost a 2.4% in GDP, which then further brings the threshold down in terms of deficits and enable us to support our debt sustainability objectives and get a primary balance that is also positive.
The Finance Minister's comments, what you just heard, comes on the back of calls by some prominent and notable persons for government to consider going back to the IMF and seeking an intervention because of what's happening specifically with the economy now. But let's take a look at these persons that I've been talking about, a number of them. The first is Makasibe Eboa, who is a two-time member of parliament representing the New Job in South constituency in the 6th and the 7th parliament, and most importantly, the former chair of the finance committee of the 7th parliament. He says, without a doubt, I think we should be placing a call to Washington if we haven't really done that. We are in a deep hole of our tax revenue and facing difficulties, so going to the IMF will give us some support. That's Dr. Makasibe Eboa. On the ticket of the NPP, he represented the people of the New Job in South constituency in the 6th and the 7th parliament. Guess what? The former finance minister, Setekpe, as well, joined an interview with me on Business Focus 2 days ago, made the point that World Bank said, come for debt suspension. We didn't go as a country. So if you didn't go or don't want to go to the IMF, provide a plan and not the E-Levy. This is Setekpe, former finance minister during the era of the NDC administration as well. So these are the two views expressed. And Portia, it's quite instructive because these two persons belong to different sides of the divide, but expressing very similar views and the recommendation about government considering the IMF as an option in a situation like this.
Well,